What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about HBAR today, Hedera, hash graph. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, okay? It is the 7th day of September, and here we are, sitting at about 22 cents with 7 hours and 53 minutes left in this day, in this week. I have to admit, that's a rather bullish look on a weekly time frame right here. You know, what you have, I like to compare HBAR, Stellar, and XRP to each other. I feel like they all move in tandem. But what you have as a bit of an advantage compared to XRP and Stellar Lumens is you've already interacted with this kind of midpoint from back in May as support, and you might be finding support here. You know, it's okay if this moves up a little bit faster or ahead of time compared to Stellar Lumens or XRP. There's nothing in the rule book that says you can't do that, but they're all probably going to move together more or less. Like, they're all going to be breaking out of their all-time highs more or less at the same time. XRP might break out sooner because it is a lot closer. But anyways, I digress. What I'm trying to talk about here is this is a nice week. It looks good. It's a good looking week so far. Let's look at the 1 hour time frame. We'll zoom out from there and we'll see if this is actually the low or if we have lower to go. Okay, but I do want to talk about some long-term stuff. We're going to go over that in the end of this video. We'll try to do a little bit of a descriptive job there at the end. Okay, so hit that like button, subscribe. Let's go. 1 hour time frame here. Looking at the RSI, things look pretty good. Right? Getting overbought, not getting oversold, getting overbought again. But what I have an issue with is you haven't really made any moves. You're getting these strong readings, but you're not getting any strong moves as a result of that. You're not moving out. That's kind of a problem. Stochastic's coming down, looking like you want to go down. The MACD is about to cross red. I suppose it does look like you want to come down from here. So I would expect that, you know, over the coming hours, by the end of the day, by the end of this week, you probably do come down and close red. Okay, that would be the expectation. 4 hour time frame here, zooming out. All in all, it kind of does, just looking at it in this kind of light, it does look like a bearish hockey stick of death and despair, doesn't it? And that could call for lower prices below 20 cents. It definitely could be that way. I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just saying it kind of looks that way. And then whenever you move down, you have a horizontal channel like this. That's oftentimes not a good thing, right? You typically break out in the direction that you came into this pattern. So that's not necessarily a good look, especially with the 1 hour time frame looking bearish. 4 hour time frame here, you're getting higher highs in the RSI with lower highs in the price. That's not good. Lower highs in the stochastics. Not getting overbought, but not getting oversold. Neutral overall. And I mean, that makes sense because your price action is pretty neutral. And the MACD, while it is producing some good looks, you are building bullish momentum. Again, you're just not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere at all. And oh, I don't know why my camera it's stopping, but that's okay. We'll just move on. You can't see my face, but that's okay. Looking at this here, we're actually at an area where I would expect us to reject the zero line instead of continuing to break through and continuing to move up. Hey, I'm back. There we go. We'll see. We'll see. You know, but I would expect you're actually more at an area to reject rather than go up. And then turning around here at the stochastics, the way the RSI looks, it all makes sense to me that you would go lower. So looking at that, I am a little bit bearish actually momentarily. The RSI also adds to the bearish effect because we have a lower low, lower high downtrend here. We found support at the 35 area, but it's probably not going to resolve itself, as most downtrends don't resolve themselves until we get into the oversold zone. Oversold zone, maybe with some bullish divergence. You don't need bullish divergence, but that would be, you know, kind of typical. So something a little bit lower is called for. Stochastics look bearish, and the MACD looks bearish on the daily time frame. What I will say is, man, you have had a solid stint of bearish momentum here. This can't keep up forever. I mean, technically, there's no rule that says it can't, but I doubt it does, right? You're in an area where you found support before on the oscillators. You've been not oversold. You've just been in the bearish area of control for a very long time. I think it's time for the bulls to start running. And to the positive effect, on the short-term time frames where you've been in that bullish area of control on the MACD and you haven't done anything, you've been in the bearish area of control for a while and you really haven't done anything to the downside. You just consolidated to a very bullish effect. So that actually looks good. It's actually positive. Overall, you're in a very positive atmosphere, but just for the short term, it looks like you're going to come down a little bit, and I think that that's okay. Unfortunately, you probably will not hold this area as support. So let's talk about where you'll go to the downside. I want to take this low to this high and just see what we're doing. We're going to take this high, not the fake out high, but this high. 382, consolidating there. You know, 19.5 cents, 19.4 cents might be a promising area to find support. Let's look at the extensions here, low to high. Get that high on there. Yeah, 19.8, 19.4 cents. I think you're going down there. I'm actually pretty confident that's where you're going to go. You're at 21.9 cents now, so a little bit lower. Just a little bit. Nothing crazy. Overall, you're in a very bullish posturing. This absolutely is a bull flag. Absolutely it is. Or some kind of bullish consolidation phase in reference to this movement here. So you're going to see continuation, much like what you saw here, probably even more of a move than what you had this in July. I would expect you have a larger move there, something more akin to what we did last year in October, November. If we're looking at this on the, did we look at the indicators? We did. Yeah, we did, because overall bullish but short-term bearish. That's right. Weekly time frame here. Now we're going to zoom out and talk about the long-term stuff. The weekly time frame looks absurdly bullish. It looks very, very good. You haven't been oversold this whole bull cycle. You haven't even been oversold in your crab market, right? But getting overbought consistently. You did reject your overbought zone, which is a little bit sad, but you're in an area where you'd expect to find support on the weekly time frame, so that's nice. Same thing with the stochastics. You're at an area where you'd expect to find support. You have found support here a couple of times, actually, and even going back here you have, so that's good. The MACD is also at an area to find support, because whenever these oscillators, whenever you're in a bullish trend, notice here, right, you're moving up, and you touch right there, you move up. You touch right there, you move up. Here, we're about to touch, and I think that we are, I think that we really are about to move up. So the MACD looks pretty nice. Maybe you can come down a little bit more next week. Could be a lower price. By the way, that price of 19.5 cents, 19.4 cents, just below 20 cents there, I expect that to be achieved by the end of next week. If not at the latest the following week, early in that week. But I think we're like 10 days or less away from having resolution of this consolidation phase. Overall, you do look very positive, and I think that you are going to move up higher. I want to look at your last cycle high to bear market low. Gone to your 786, 886 and held the 0.5 as support. That's actually very bullish. Might you go down to the golden ratio and find support there? That's at 19.7 cents. And you can wick a little bit below there. That's fine. You can wick below and you're still finding support there. So I'm not worried about that. I don't have a problem with that. A little bit lower makes sense. And finding support off that golden ratio after being above it like this is actually a really positive thing. And that should get you set up to see the extension levels here, which again, from last cycle's bull market high to the bear market low, this fib retracement extension level is going to be very, very significant. It's going to be respected. It has been respected even throughout this market here. Bounced right off the 069 multiple times, rejected the 382 multiple times, found some resistance at the 0.5 where you're now finding support. You've respected all these levels, so I would expect it continues. Right, very significant level, bull market high to bear cycle low retracement there. The next target area implied would be $1.20, $1.21 right there. And then the maximum target would be about $3.15. Let's look at this with the Bitcoin chart. I haven't done this for a while, actually, with HBAR. I don't know if I ever have done it with HBAR. I want to look at it on the Bitcoin chart. Let's just see. Good, we have that. Let's do Binance because they probably have the most historical data. Yes, they do. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do TA on the BTC chart and then see if we can make sense out of where the USD chart's going to go based off of that, okay? We're not going to cherry pick. We're going to be realistic here, okay? Last cycle, 2021, that was the bull market high. This cycle, man, you had a terrible bear market versus Bitcoin, didn't you? Right? Your real bull market didn't start until November. And I mean, same thing with the USD pair, but you weren't in like a bear market. You were in a sideways market then, but might as well have been versus Bitcoin here. Golden ratio down to the 236. We've seen that happen all over the place. Now you're looking to find support at the 382. You'd probably move up. Your next area would be the 786, 886, okay? So something in this area. Let me put some lines there and let's just see if that makes sense first off. All right, if we're putting a horizontal line at the 886, we're putting a horizontal line at the 786. We delete the fib so we can see more clearly. This is right at a prior area of resistance that we interacted with several times last cycle. Okay, if we're going there, and I think we are. Right, I think essentially what I'm trying to say here is by the end of this year, if not even by the end of October. Right, moving at this pace, we could be there by the end of October. If not by the end of the year, we'll be up in this area, okay? So let's run some math. Let's do some math here. Google calculator. All right, this area at the base, let's be conservative. Let's even take it a step beyond conservative, right? Let's see. Let's say, and I don't believe this, but let's say that you stop at the golden ratio. I don't think that you'll stop there, or if you do, it'll be very momentarily, and then you'll continue to rally. I still believe that you'll be up in this area by the end of the year, 2025. But maybe you're only here by the end of October. Maybe, you know what I mean? So let's take it a step below and be extra conservative. Maybe you find turbulence here at your golden ratio again. You have found resistance here before, you found support here before, you found turbulence here before, you found resistance right there, maybe. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, I believe. I want to double check. Yeah, that's 5 zeros, 387, okay? So we do, let's see, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 387, is that the price we got? Yeah, 380. So that's the price versus Bitcoin. If we multiply that by the current price of Bitcoin, which by the time HBAR versus BTC moves up here, Bitcoin will certainly be at a higher price. It will not be at this price. It'll certainly be at a higher price, probably like 160K, 180K, somewhere in that area, 150K at least, okay? But if we multiply it by the current price, this gives us an understanding of what the price will at least be above, right? Because if Bitcoin's going to definitely be at a higher price than this, and HBAR USD right now is here, if HBAR grows versus Bitcoin, Bitcoin's growing in price, this is a absurd valuation here. So that should give us a 43-cent price. So HBAR undoubtedly will be above 43 cents by the end of October. Undoubtedly it will be. That's what I'm picking up from that, okay? And that's pretty conservative. I think we can take this a step further. Let's do that, okay? Again, this is just at the golden ratio. We're being very conservative at first. We're gonna step it up as we go through. Imagine Bitcoin goes to 180K. Maybe HBAR tops off at the same time. Maybe it tops off a little bit earlier or a little bit after. More likely, it'll probably top off after. So Bitcoin pulls back from 180K. Where is it at? 160K. Maybe it's at 160K. It pulls back. It's at 140K. Let's do 140K first. That gives us a price of 54 cents. So by the end of October, it's very likely that HBAR, I think, would be at its all-time highs, if not higher, is what I'm getting right here. Okay, it's absurd to think that it'd be below 47 cents, 46 cents. It's absurd to think that. Likely, it's going to be above 54 cents because, again, we're being conservative here. Okay. Hold on, guys. Let me. Okay, never mind. We're good. We're good. Okay. If we take this same number now and we run it by 160K, $160,000. That gives us a 62-cent target. So HBAR would be at new all-time highs with that. But that doesn't really make sense. Still to me, it doesn't make sense that we would stop there, right? Why? Because from a high to a low, we're going to stop at 62 cents. We consolidated all this time. We had a massive accumulation phase. We're finally breaking out to new all-time highs, and we stop here, not even at one of our primary target areas. That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. We see this kind of a movement. We consolidate like this, and we're going to see a pathetic move like that. That doesn't. I would think it's going to be of an equivalent nature to this move here, equivalent aspects. So that tells me we're probably missing something, right? We're probably missing something. What are we missing? Well, HBAR BTC, it's probably not going to stop at the golden ratio. I think we had it right the first time, the 786 to the 886. So let's run those numbers. We'll be conservative still, right? Prior areas where you found resistance, right here, turbulence every single time, we're getting set up to move to that exact area, that exact zone. Let's take the lower end of that zone. That's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, 6, 2, 7. Okay, 5 zeros, 6, 2, 7. We multiply that by the perceived outcome of Bitcoin. Let's just cut to the chase. I think it'll be closer to 160K, maybe even 180K. You never know. That would put us at $1. Okay, so HBAR likely goes to $1, but again, that still is not, in my opinion, making too much sense because we're just shy of the 1272. Okay, maybe Bitcoin's at higher prices. Maybe HBAR BTC is at higher prices. Let's say that we do just go, and typically you do, whenever you break out and you see. Like let's say you're in this range here, right? Here's your range. Whenever you break out into that range, you typically do go all the way to the top and find resistance at the top. Typically you do. Beyond all that, you got the 886 up there. It just makes sense that we'd go up there. So let's run that. Let's 5 zeros, 868. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 868. Well, that equals that, yeah. Multiply that by 160. That gives us a price of about $1.40. Now we're getting somewhere. This to me makes sense. And in all fairness, any of those numbers make sense. We can make sense. The one that doesn't make sense is anything below 50 cents, right? Anything below there doesn't make sense at all. It is possible that we could see a slightly higher high, new all-time high, get a double top and then top off. Maybe that's what we get for October. And then these later price actions happen, and later in the year we get to these price areas. Maybe that's what we're seeing. Everything that we've seen so far, there is some credibility to it whenever we analyze the golden ratio, the 786 to 886 levels, and multiply it by the perceived outcome of Bitcoin. It just, whenever we look at it on the US dollar pair, I don't see HBAR stopping in this range. It doesn't really make sense. Maybe if we get a fake out, a slightly higher high, and then we consolidate, okay, I could see that. But again, that's versus the price action, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it could happen. Maybe we stop just below the 1272. That could happen, but again, that's not normal. Normally, you go above that. This to me is the only price that we've gotten so far that actually makes somewhat sense. $1.38 there. So something above $1.20. That's what makes the most sense to me. at least there, right? That's where I think we're going to go by the end of October. Now, by the end of the year, I think Bitcoin will be at dramatically higher prices, fantastically higher prices, right? We're going to be dealing with something, and HBAR BTC is probably in this area as well. Maybe even higher. You could be higher. You could even be seeing new all-time highs. It's very possible. But I'm not calling for this. I don't know if you'll go to the 1272, 1414. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. We'll see. But I would think by the end of the year, you see a replicated move, much like what you saw back in November, December. So this in itself, let's actually put a line. Let's get this exact so that we know what we're dealing with. We're probably going to start that move here. I mean, maybe we do go to our all-time highs. It's very possible. I don't want to run that number because I don't want to be too optimistic. I don't want to get people's hopes up, right? I mean, we can run that number, but I just want to stick with this real quick. This 886 level real quick. Okay, when Bitcoin's end of year comes up in December of 2025, I'm assuming Bitcoin will be above 200,000. Now, I don't know how high it's going to be. Will it be at 300,000, 400,000? Will it be at 180,000 and it just came back from $200,000 price? I don't know. Let's just put 200,000 in and just see, because I do assume Bitcoin's going to be at 200,000 at some point, and I would assume that HBAR to BTC will be there as well. So when Bitcoin's worth $200,000, whenever that is, end of year probably, we could expect to see HBAR at about $1.73. Okay, so $1.73. All this time I've been thinking that HBAR would be at $1.80 to $2, somewhere in that area by the end of October. I've been thinking that's where our next move was. Looking at it like this, it actually might make more sense based on the HBAR BTC chart that $1.70, that $1.80 sub $2 area, this area here, just above the 1414, that might be reserved for end of the year status. And that's fine. That's totally fine if that happens, right? Maybe that's the same for Stellar Lumens. Maybe that's the same for XRP as well. I don't think anybody's going to care when we get there, just as long as we get there, and we will get there, right? But that's whenever Bitcoin's at $200,000, presuming that HBAR is at these levels, and I think it will be, we would see that level of about around $2, just below $2. So understanding this, looking at this here, it really does, I think, give us the insight that HBAR is likely going to go to prices that are above $1. At least something around your new all-time highs by the end of October, something right around your all-time highs by the end of October. But I really do think that we're going to go to like $1.30 or $1.20, somewhere around there by the end of October. And then we have prices that are just under $2 by the end of the year to anticipate. Okay, if Bitcoin's at higher prices, if things really take off, if I'm not bullish enough on the HBAR BTC chart, then that's one thing. I could be wrong. Let's put in 4 zeros, 1, 2, and just see what that would do. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. If we get to that level, 4 zeros, 1, 2, 1, 2, 0, 4. Let's be specific because we're dealing with big numbers. We multiply that by the perceived outcome that Bitcoin's at 200,000 by the end of the year. That's $2.40. So there are scenarios, HBAR BTC, again, if we see a similar move, if we replicate this move here, okay, delete all the chicken scratch so it's more visible for you to see. If we replicate this move here that we saw last year in October, November, and we see that starting here, that could take us to our all-time high level. I'm not counting that as the all-time high. I'm counting this as the all-time high level. We could see that, and if we do get there, Bitcoin is at 200,000 by the end of the year, then HBAR would be well above $2 by the end of the year. And we can make sense out of that too. It could definitely happen, but I'm trying to stay conservative for now. Let's say $1, let's say 50 cents by the end of October is the absolute pessimistic bearish minimum target that I could see is like 50, 56 cents. The realistic target we came up with is about $1.20 to $1.40 by the end of October, and then end of year, anything from about $1.70 to, let's be fair, $2.40 is very possible. And as time progresses, I would think that we go even higher, right? Assuming that HBAR versus BTC stays at this area, let's even put it a little bit lower because maybe there's some volatility. Let's just say 401. We stay in that area, and then Bitcoin's worth 400,000 or more. That could give HBAR the potential to see targets that are all the way up at $4 or more by the end of the cycle, which makes a lot of sense to me because I do believe that HBAR will see prices all the way up at like a 20x from here or more, right? $3.15. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we got all the way up to $6 to $9 by the end of the cycle, right? Again, $4 to me doesn't make as much sense as either this price would or this price would. But HBAR has been outperforming the average altcoins so far, thus far. Getting to $3.15 is not even a 20x, and the average altcoin is going to do a 20x. If you've been outperforming the average coin thus far, you're probably going to continue to outperform the average coin going into the end of the cycle. I really feel confident about this $6.62 to $9.08 price by the end of the cycle, okay? Likely what's happening here is we will see new all-time highs, new highs relative to this by the end of the cycle for HBAR to BTC, but just going into the end of the year, we'll come up here, consolidate, whatever, And then early 2026, we'll make that final approach, that final bull market finale rally where we're up here. And I mean, we can run those numbers real quick. What's 4 zeros 2? What is that? 27? Is that what it was? 4 zeros 27? 27. Let's multiply that by 400,000 just real quick. Let's do 450,000 because Bitcoin probably tops off a little bit, right? Maybe even a little bit. Let's do 420. Okay. 420,000. That puts us at $11. I could see that. That's actually pretty close to where I think our highs are going to be. Maybe just a little bit lower. But again, I'm doing the rough numbers. It's not going to be perfect. We'll know when we get there. I've got nothing else to say. Thank you all for being here. Hit the like button, subscribe. Take care of yourselves. Bye.